right, so welcome everyone. Today we are trying something different, trying a new app, a new system, and this is a quick preview of the Euros final, which will happen on Sunday between England and Italy. And with me today to talk about that and the tournament in general, I have as a return guest, Mike Drew. How are you, sir?
No, I'm not bad. Thanks for having me. And how are you? Something big happened to you yesterday, so I've been checking in on you and make sure everything's all right.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I got my second. I mentioned it on the double ETF intro. I got my second shot of Moderna on Wednesday noon.
Oh, Wednesday. Sorry, not yesterday. Yeah.
That's 48 hours ago. My arm still hurts, and I'm a bit out of it, but I'm getting back to normalcy. If you want.
Good.
Yes. All right. So the tournament will end on Sunday. What do you think of the tournament in its entirety? Do you think it was a good tournament, all things considered?
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking prior to hitting the record button, and I was saying that unfortunately, just with, life and work and what have you, it was really kind of difficult to see, all the games, to kind of pay attention to everything because, with the time difference, being in Europe, you had games that were starting at lunchtime here, and obviously we're still working in the afternoon and stuff. But what I've seen has really been good. Like I've really enjoyed it. And I think there's always an excitement when a big tournament, the Euro, the World Cup, or whatever is happening. But and it's a weird time. Obviously, we've still got the pandemic going, and so I think people have had this to look forward to. But yeah, I think overall, I've really enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it was a quarterfinal. There was a day that there were 14 goals scored. I think it was, wasn't it like France, Switzerland, and Italy, Croatia or something? It was two crazy games. And of course, other things happened that were, how can I say, that could have been a catastrophe for the entire thing. For example, Christian Eriksen almost losing his life in the first 20 minutes of the tournament.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. That was one of those games that I wasn't watching. I was listening to on the radio, or I had it on. And then all of a sudden you can just tell the tone change. Like to be fair, I wasn't really paying attention. It was on, I'm making lunch or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you can tell, like, it's almost like when you step out of the room, you got the TV on and there's a goal, and you can tell by the announcers, like, tone and the loudness that something's happened, right? Or somebody's got hurt or whatever. And all of a sudden I had to kind of stop what I was doing and pay attention. And I was like, uh-oh, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could have been obviously a lot worse. It was bad. And it's just good news to hear that he's on the mend and that he's doing well.
Yeah. I don't think he will be able to play again, though, but, all things considered, could have been worse.
Absolutely. My aunt used to always say, without your health, you got nothing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even though his playing days, and he's not an old, nobody in this tournament's old, let's be honest, they're all younger than me. But yeah, I mean, you've got to look after yourself. You got a long life ahead of you still, and you got to take care of number one. So
I think he's 29, and
yeah,
financially that won't be a problem either. So, could have been worse. And also, actually, I'm jumping between questions, but I would say that a bit for that reason, I'd say that Denmark is my team of the tournament, because the way that they recovered from that incident, they lost their game. The first game, that Eriksen game, they lost it, but after that, they recovered quite nicely and they made it to the semi-final. So, that would be my team of the tournament. Do you have a team that really caught your attention during this tournament?
Well, so this will set the tone, I would say. I think being an England fan, I think there's always a hesitancy, right? Mm-hmm. Being an England fan. And I think obviously they've done well, and clean sheets up until the game against Denmark. So yeah, I mean, England, I'm very impressed with them, much more than I probably should be. I'll go with the opposite and say I think there was some teams that I think were a disappointment,
Yes.
but I love underdogs. I mean, I think that's part of being Canadian. And the fact that you had teams like North Macedonia, being
Yeah.
even just taking part, right? Like, so I don't know if I necessarily have a team. Again, England has impressed me. This is I know we're going to get to this, but it's a much different team than they were in the last 20 years or so, or 25 years. So I will go with England, but yeah, I mean, Italy could easily be, this team didn't even make the World Cup, 3 years ago. Right. And they're in the final. And we'll get to that, but yeah, I mean, I can't pick one team. If I had to, I would go with England.
Okay. And you mentioned disappointments earlier. Which team would be your biggest disappointment this year?
I got to go with France. I think,
Mm-hmm.
look, they're the world champs, and they, as you and I were talking about many times, they were my pick. I thought they're the ones to beat, not just because they won the World Cup, but, seeing the World Cup 3 years ago, especially like in that final game against Croatia, it was like magic. I was just like, as somebody who coaches little kids, I sit there and go, oh, is that how it's supposed to go? like just brilliant, and I don't know what happened this year. They just, I think, who'd they lose to? Was it Switzerland?
Yes.
Yeah.
On penalties.
I don't know. In penalties, yeah. And that's always a heartbreak,
yes.
Right? But yeah, I would say France is my disappointment. I'm sure Belgium fans are disappointed. I mean, they were ranked number 1 coming into this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm sure every fan of every team, I thought Germany would do better. I know you and I swapped text a couple times. I honestly thought Germany, you can never count Germany out. I know they're an older team and stuff, but I had a feeling like they might do better. And when they didn't, I was a little surprised about that.
Yeah, that's true, but honestly, I thought they made it about as far as I thought they would.
You predicted that.
Yeah,
better than I did.
they were in the group of death with France, Portugal, and Hungary. I think they finished second in that group, which was okay, and then they went out against England. But the thing is, okay, to go back to disappointments. Before the tournament started, almost everyone had Turkey as their dark horse.
Yeah,
and they didn't do shit. They were bad from the get-go, and they stayed bad. So that would be my disappointment for the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Italy beat Turkey, right? That was one of the games.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yeah, and quote-unquote experts who, analyze these games and make predictions before and going into the tournament, and I will clearly state that I am no expert.
Neither am I.
We're fans, right? Mm-hmm. And we have opinions, and as does everybody on social media these days. Yeah, I mean, they are paid to invest their time into the game and the teams. Yeah, I had heard Turkey as well. I'll be honest, that's one of the teams that I just didn't get a chance to see play. Mm-hmm. I think I watched maybe 1 or 2 of the highlights, and that was it. I do remember hearing that name come up, that, hey, like, this could be a dark horse, and yep, that didn't happen. So
turned into a donkey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Scotland didn't get out of the group. Was it about what you expected from them?
Yeah, I was happy they were there.
Mm-hmm.
As I said on my on your show before, my mom is Scottish, and my whole side of her family is Scottish, and they immigrated here, and obviously, so when Scotland played England, that was a challenge. I had both my jerseys out ready to go. I kept switching between them, like, not just out of fun. Like, my wife would be like, "Oh, you switched, eh?" Because I'd be like, "Yep, I don't want to lose anybody's love from my family here." Yeah, I thought they played. Listen, they held England to a draw.
Mm-hmm.
A scoreless draw, but a draw nonetheless. And I thought they actually played pretty well. They were one of the teams that I did keep my eye on, and you had players like Dykes who really stood out, and I thought they did. I think they did as well as they should have.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think if some investment can be put into that team, and I don't mean financially, but just time and skill and whatever, I think they could be a dark horse down the road. I don't know as much about the players in the sense that like who's young, who's old, who's coming up. I don't follow it that well, but I thought there was some promise there, so I was quite happy.
I agree. I think with a little bit more firepower up front. On the wings, you have Robertson and Tierney, so that's pretty awesome. And if you can have like a good finisher, you could have something interesting there, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see them hopefully be able to qualify, say, for the next Euro, and we'll have a look then and reflect back to what we're saying now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can talk a little bit about each of the semifinals. First, Spain against Italy. Did you have the chance to watch that one?
Yeah, so unfortunately at the time I missed most of the first half, and then I caught the second, and obviously the shootout. I thought. Italy, listen, and I'm going to state this right up front. Italy is not my favorite team. Not that I don't think that they're, and this has been for years, decades.
Yes.
It drives me nuts, the diving and stuff. Yeah. And we'll get to that with England.
Yeah. Masters of the dark arts, Italy for sure.
Yeah. And that drives me insane. And, but they are fun to watch, and they have this little flurry that happens out of nowhere. They have this flair that I can't quite describe, but they can make these chances happen. And obviously defensively, they're, super strong. Even with the guy who was hurt, they got the Achilles injury. Spinazzola?
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they have, Bonucci back in the back there and stuff, and these guys, wow. But yeah, I mean, that is it. Chiesa? Am I saying that name right?
Chiesa, yes, the forward.
Chiesa, yeah, like that goal was that strike was phenomenal,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, and that's probably something that they didn't have in the past, like a really good offensive player. Maybe it didn't quite click in the past, but they added a little offensive touch that got them in the final, I think.
Yeah, I think that, and so when you got guys like him who can just make that, and he does what every Leafs fan yells at the TV, like take the shot, and he did, and it was beautiful. You know what I mean? Like just this perfect strike, and their goaltender is it Donna?
Oh yeah, Donnarumma.
Donna, yeah. We'll talk about who I think the man of the tournament has been so far, I'm sure at some point, but I think that guy, he played amazing against Spain. It's funny because when I saw what I saw of the Spanish-Italy match in the semi, I thought that Spain outplayed Italy overall. But that being said, I didn't think it was, I thought it was closer, I thought it was close, which it obviously was because it went to the penalties, but I thought their keeper I thought the Italian keeper was fantastic. Like he stopped a couple legit chances that Spain had. And I always relate it back to hockey, but we talk about this a lot. Like if you have a hot goalkeeper in the playoffs in hockey, they can take you to the final. And I think that's part of what's happened with Italy, and that's great. Like, I think that's going to make for an interesting match on Sunday.
Yeah. Also, I got to admit, I'm glad that Spain got eliminated because I thought they were all, what's the expression? All sizzle, no steak. Like, they would have 1,500 passes in a game, but 2 shots on goal,
Yeah. You and I were texting each other, and I think I said this. I think my quote was, "They love the middle of the field. Like, they love it."
Or something like, "Do they know which net to shoot at?" Or something.
And it was just like you said, they were dancing. Like just here, you take it, and that gets really frustrating. And I don't know like that squad as well as maybe others. And I'm like, are they going to try and shoot? Like, do they have somebody who can? Like, it was frustrating to watch.
Yeah. All right, so we can go to the other semifinal, England, Denmark. Okay, so first things first. In your opinion, was it a penalty?
No.
I agree.
No. I look. It was late. I'm not gonna say he did it on purpose. I can only and you know my wife gets mad at me. She's like, they're professional athletes. They're supposed to, and I get that. That being said, I couldn't imagine running that long, that hard for what, nearly 2 hours at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Sterling's legs were wobbly at the best, right? And and maybe I'm overstating it, but did I think it was a penalty? No, I didn't, and I thought it was a soft call for sure.
Yes, but on the other hand, I think that day England was the better team.
Yeah.
The way I would put it is I'm okay with the final result, but the way they got there sucks, because the penalty tainted the results kind of.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, I thought there was Kane got pulled down, I think, in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was more of a legitimate chance for a penalty than Sterling's. And but you know what? They have VAR. Like, nobody overturned it, so I'm kind of like, at this point, I don't know. I thought it was soft. I agree with you. I thought England outplayed Denmark anyway,
Mm-hmm.
But it would have really bugged me if it had gone to penalties. And so I don't know. It's the angel and the devil on my shoulders, right? Like the angel saying, that shouldn't have happened, but the devil's like, take it while you can. And I'm like,
yes.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, sometimes you're going to have calls go against you, and sometimes it goes the other way, and, you kind of feel bad about it a little bit, but you take it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Denmark scored first, right? And
yes, on a really good free kick.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Like, and as an England fan, I'm sure there was just the air was out of it came out of the balloon, I'm sure across a whole country. But then they get an own goal, right? And
yes.
You're thinking, oh, wait, I don't know. But I think, like you said, I still think England outplayed Denmark overall. Not that Denmark didn't play well. I'll be honest with you, I didn't care for the reffing in that match. I thought the reffing in the Italy match was much better.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. So, yeah, look, am I happy about it? No. But I'm hoping, I'm trying to convince myself that England would have won it anyway. But
yes,
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. But, if had it gone to penalties, then, who knows?
Yeah.
But it's a definite fact that during extra time, Denmark was gassed. They were dead on their feet. You could see it.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that's the one thing I'll say about the English squad. Like, as somebody who's kind of kept my eye on them and has followed them for the last, 20, 25 years, this site has so much depth. And
yes.
Like you've got Marcus Rashford sitting on the bench, right?
Yeah.
Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, if you got Rashford sitting on the bench, and guys like Foden and Grealish and stuff, you're like, wow, they must be okay. Like, so you must have enough to choose from. And yeah, I think, and I don't know, how much we're going to get into this, but I think Southgate has nailed everything, like sub-wise and strategy-wise, and yeah. So, and again, I come to this with a slant of being an England fan, but
well, yeah. I mean, what I liked, and I think what was different from previous tournaments, is when he subbed Grealish on, and he took him out after 30 minutes because strategy-wise, Grealish was not what they needed anymore,
No, and when they did, they moved Sterling to the right.
Yes.
And I agree.
That was ballsy.
Yeah, he's done tactically well, and and I hate to say, it's just Southgate, because there are other people there with him that, there's a lot of eyes, and then he's the one who makes the call, right? And we give him all the credit, even though if it may not have been solely him that came up with that. But I think he's handled it really well. And yeah, I think he's made like they've made or he's made the right calls all tournament.
Yes.
And as an England fan, I'm very happy to see that. Because let's remember, like, he wasn't even supposed to really be manager. Like, he was the intern after Allardyce. Like, Allardyce, that whole fiasco that happened, and then Southgate will put him in there until we find somebody.
Yeah.
Well, he's still there, however many years later, and yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I had that in my notes. I think it was like 3 years ago, maybe, because of the Allardyce scandal. That's the only reason that Southgate is there, because otherwise, like, if Allardyce hadn't been caught in that, I think it was like some financial dealings or something.
Yeah.
He would have stayed there. And, Allardyce is not, how can I say? His teams are not the most exciting to watch.
No, I mean,
put it that way.
Yeah, and people are still saying that about England now, right? And
yes, yeah, that's true.
And I can't blame them, but there's definitely something there that hasn't been there in the last couple decades. So
I agree. And also during the Denmark game, I think the last 5 minutes of extra time, I think England passed it among themselves. They kept the ball for 3 minutes in a row and 54 passes or something insane like that.
Yeah. And here we are talking about Spain passing too much. Well, I mean, I heard something, and I can't remember who it was, if it was Henderson. Mm-hmm. He ran 15 kilometers. I think it was Henderson. Ran 15 kilometers during that match.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a lot.
Again, I'm saying Sterling's legs being tired, falling down quite easily. But these guys, I mentioned this in the episode that you and I did together, was that, like, I'm a fan of their talents and their skills, right? Mm-hmm. Not just just professional athletes in general. And like I couldn't imagine.
Usually it's like between 10 and 12,
right?
Most of the times. And more than that is, you put in a shift today. But 15, I didn't know that actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
I could be wrong that it might have been Maguire. It was one of the backs that 15 clicks. Wow. Like wow. So. And
it's not exactly like a jog around the neighborhood either.
No, no, exactly.
You have people kicking at you, and
that's right. And there's a slight breeze, and it's like you're like, oh, it's a little misty out. I think I'll stay home. It's like, no, you gotta go. Like yes. Any other condition, like you said, you got other big guys like hunkering down on you and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, they've. I'm very happy with where we are right now.
Yeah. Do you have a prediction for the final?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this. I think. No, it's okay. Look, I mean, the biggest thing as an England fan, please just don't let it go to penalties, right? That's please do not let that happen. Oh, gods of football. I'm going to say, I think it could be a similar game to the Denmark one, in the sense that I think it could end up something like 2-1. Mm-hmm. It could also be 1-0. Pickford has played standing on his head.
Yeah. He's been more calm as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if I heard right that he actually won the Golden Glove for the tournament. But
that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, I'll be honest with you. I mean, Kane had a slow start in the tournament, mm-hmm. And then when he scored, who was it against? Ukraine? Or before that, I think. Anyway, he Croatia maybe. When he finally scored and kind of like broke the seal, and then mm-hmm. he played really well. But I'll say Pickford has been personally my player of the tournament. And again, I've seen more England games and Scotland games than any other team. But I just they had clean sheets up until that Denmark game.
Yeah.
And I know not all the time it is like he's under constant threat, but when he would need it, he was there every time.
That's true.
So I think it's going to be 1-0 or 2-1. If there's more than 3 goals scored, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, same. And I hope I'm wrong, but I think there will be I think it won't be a very exciting game to watch, and I think there will be a lot of shithousery.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
I think I really hope, you know, I'll be honest with you. So about, what was it, 2011 was the Women's World Cup. And I kind of at that point became a fan of the women's game because I don't like that nonsense. I never have. You know, when I have players, when I coach players and I've seen it, they'll start, you know, and a lot of times it's not because they're like imitating somebody they've seen on TV or anything, but they'll like, you know, but they start whining or something, like, stop, or I'm going to take you out. Like, just, you know, play your best and, you know, focus and, you know, work as a team, blah, 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 all these things, all these cliches, but it's true. And that's the thing that has always bugged me about Italy. And, you know, in the Sterling fall, and there's going to be talk about that, especially if England win, right? If England win, then the Sterling, you know, penalty, we're not going to hear the end of it ever.
That's true.
But I think, yeah, I hope not. Because it really, it makes, I don't enjoy it when it happens, right? Because it can also affect the game, and that shouldn't be, right?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't happen in ice hockey, and it doesn't happen, like, very often, and it doesn't happen in, you know, American football, and, you know, like, so why does it happen in this? I don't, and it's part of the game. Why does it have to? So again, going back to, like, I became a fan of the women's game, because literally they'll get kicked in the side of the head and they should come off, and they're like, no, I'm all right. You're like, you're not, like, stop. And they're like, no, like, they're soldiers. And that's what I wish all the teams, like, in the men, and some of them were, like, you know, I like the no nonsense. I'm not saying a rough game or anything by any stretch, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if you're hurt, you're hurt. That's fine. But if you're not, I'm not here to watch a drama, you know?
No, I agree. I agree completely. And I'm tempted to go with Kasper Schmeichel as player of the tournament because he was exceptional against England.
Yeah.
Made a few crazy saves. And otherwise, yeah, Pickford is a good shout.
Yeah, I think Schmeichel is as well, right? Like, just from what I saw, and yeah, played amazing as well. That guy, I wish. I mean, he's that stop on Kane. Like, I mean, if there wasn't the deflection, if he could have held on to it,
yeah,
our conversation right now would be very different. I guess. So yeah.
I'm always. I mean, I know it's in the rules, but it pisses me off every time. And I'm not saying that because it was England versus Denmark, but when the goalkeeper saves a penalty and someone else grabs the rebound and scores, I always think that's unfair. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I know. Listen, it's my, I don't know if I ever told you, but my grandfather, years ago, before they immigrated here, before they had, you know, he had a family and stuff, he was scouted by a big Scottish team, which I won't mention the name.
Okay.
And he was a keeper as well. And the game that he happened to be scouted at the first time, he stopped 4 penalties in one game.
Holy shit.
And this isn't just like I scored 5 touchdowns in one game. Like, he actually did. And I said, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you know? And he just said, for that, he goes, there was something just telling me, go right, go up, go down that day, you know? But, you know, he would tell me, like, you look at their eyes and you look where their feet are going and you try to do some homework. And this is, however, 70, 80 years ago, right? He's telling me that, do your homework. Okay. They normally go right and down. And you're like, all right. But he said, like, that day, he said, I just felt something telling me where to go every time. And he said, so is it luck? I don't know. But, yeah, Schmeichel, I'll be honest, I felt bad when the ball bounced back out. Right.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, he watched it perfectly. He saw it coming, you know. Yeah. It's tricky for sure.
Should be interesting to see, like you said, if it goes to penalties with Donnarumma on Sunday. Like that giant goalkeeper should be. I was gonna say fun to watch. It won't be fun. It will be intense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I'm England's in a final, right? Look, if I'd love for them to win, but if this is as far as we get, this is another step in the right direction, right?
Yes.
And it's just obviously I want them to win, but I think, and obviously that's going to be the spin if they do lose, right? Like, yeah, but that's the first time since '66 that they've actually been. And Italy, I mean, I did a little research for this, and obviously, like the last couple times Italy's played England, they've won, and obviously teams change and stuff. But Italy has won or not lost in their last 33 games. Like,
yes,
that's a run.
Yes,
like I don't know what else to say.
Absolutely, they've been very impressive.
Yeah. And, and again, I think before the tournament, I don't think a lot of people, I mean, Italian fans, obviously, but I don't think a lot of people were going, Italy's the dark horse here. Like, they were like, yeah, they should do okay. Like, or they could do okay. But nobody was saying, and I don't even know, like, I think there were people that were picking England, not just English journalists or anything. But the Italians were like, they're getting older, this, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't know. I mean, 33 games and to not lose. And yeah, Mancini's amazing, whatever. But I don't know. Is it going to be 34? Guess we'll find out.
Yeah. They've been doing just enough to get away with it so far. So who knows? Like I know it's like it doesn't really help to say that. Who knows? But it's true. We'll see.
Well, you know what happens is in being sports fans, and I don't know if we've talked about this, but like. The Super Bowl being a big deal always makes me laugh because I'm always kind of like, that game's not going to be that great, right? It's always like the conference finals that are way better games.
Yeah, most of the times, yes.
Yeah, and it's just, it's the activity of doing the Super Bowl, right? You get together with your friends and whatever. But I think this is an interesting match. Like, I think the semis were good, obviously, but I think that this is one of those outcomes that we're like, because if this was Spain-Denmark, I don't know how many people are giving Denmark a chance, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think that this is one of those ones where it's like, we'll see.
Yes.
And I think both teams. I have a friend who's Italian, and I texted her and I said, "What are you guys doing Sunday?" Laugh, or smiley face. And she's like, "Probably the same thing as you." And but she said, like, she goes, "You guys outplayed Denmark, and you deserve to be there." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can say the same thing about Italy outplaying Spain. I think Spain kind of outplayed themselves, and I don't know. We'll see. I think it'll be a good game, and I'm looking forward to it."
Yep. So that's for the East Coast. I think it will be 3 p.m.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so Sunday, 3 p.m. Mark your calendars. Should be a good one.
Yeah, and you'll know who won, even if you don't watch the match. If you go out about 6, 7 o'clock and whatever flags you see the most of, if you see like green, then Italy won, and if you only see white and red, then England won.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good indication usually. All right. So thank you very much, Mike, for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great. It's anytime I can talk sports with someone, I appreciate it. So
no problem. So thank you, everyone, and we will talk to you on the next one. Thanks.